Joining me to dig a little deeper on this case now, Avery Friedman, a civil rights attorney and law professor in Cleveland. Good to see you.
Bye, Frederica.
Hello, and Richard Herman, a criminal defense attorney joining us from Las Vegas. Good to see you as well.
Hey, Fred.
All right, so gentlemen, Avery, you first. So what do these questions in the oral argument tell you about how these justices just might be thinking here?
Well, in order to understand the answer to the question, you've got to look at the constitutional history. You see, back in the 60s, Congress passed a law similar to the Colorado law. And the owner of a place called Piggy Park Barbecue said that he didn't want to let blacks in because it, quote, contravened the will of God, end quote. Well, that's the same argument that Jack Phillips is making here. So if we look at precedent, the Supreme Court is likely to affirm the rights of those individuals to be free from discrimination. And the argument of religious freedom is going to go nowhere, just like it went back in the 1960s.
All right. So cut and dry discrimination case, it sounds
like
I'm
concerned,
what you're seeing in there. So, Richard, it doesn't seem as though it's that cut and dry, though, because it's made its way all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right, Fred. It's not cut and dry. And for cases that usually have an hour of argument in front of the Supreme Court, this took 90 minutes. It's not cut and dry. Of course, the justices are divided along conservative and liberal lines, and Justice Kennedy, being the swing vote, the drafter of the 2015 decision recognizing states, compelling states to recognize gay marriage. But here he's troubled, and he's troubled with the way the Colorado State Commission treated Phillips and the way he believes they trampled on his religious beliefs. You look at this case first blush and you say, come on, Baker, just bake them the cake and move on, And what the baker says is this: I have a lot of cakes in my bakery. I'll sell them any one of those cakes that they want. Just don't compel me to use my artistic abilities to create a beautiful cake for these people who are doing. I don't care that they're gay, but it's what they're doing. They're getting married, and to me,
but
that violates my
religious
belief.
I guess the burning question is, how does that become a religious freedom argument? Because that they want the cake does not necessarily say that you have to be in step, with everything that we stand for, that we live for. And so how is this a religious freedom application?
What he's saying, Fred, is that in my religious belief is that a marriage is between a man and a woman, not two people of the same sex. So by you compelling me to use my artistic abilities to create something to support that, I'm not going to do it. And I disagree with Avery. I do not think that the Supreme Court is going to just turn around and stamp the lower courts. I think what they're going to do is they're going to send the case back down. They're going to rebuke the Colorado State Commission and ask the state court to fashion some sort of remedy here. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to answer this.
So then, Avery, help us understand. So it's the baker who is now saying it's my freedom of speech. The way I make my cakes is an extension of my freedom of speech. And so thereby, if I don't agree with this same-sex couple, I'm able to refrain from extending my piece of work, my freedom of speech, to this couple because I don't agree with who they are.
Well, and that's why the argument goes up in smoke, because the way it works is Jack Phillips makes cakes. And he goes, here, I'll sell everybody a cake. I have a commercial license, and you've got to do that. But then he says, hey, wait a minute. What are you going to do with that cake? Well, I mean, again, if we look to precedent, the Piggy Park case where the guy says, well, it's my religious belief that I can discriminate. That's the same argument Jack Phillips is making. And that's why I think, and I disagree with what's been said, I think at least 6-3-5-4 supporting Colorado in its anti-discrimination law.
So then, Richard, the argument has to be made, particularly for Phillips, that this is different than if I were selling a car. If you come into my store and want to buy any product, which it would not be supported by law no matter what, right? That I don't want to sell you this product because I don't agree about anything, that you represent, who you are, etc. Right. That's flat out discrimination, and there's already precedence for that. Why is this different?
Yes, You're right, Fred. That would be outright discrimination. But here, what you're doing is you're compelling this baker to use his expertise to create something, to him personally to create something, not just sell a cake. He said, I'll sell any cake they want to buy in my store. Here, take any cake you want. Don't make me create a cake for something that I oppose in my religion.
What does that mean?
I think it's ridiculous. I think he should have made the cake, but we're looking at it legally and we're analyzing it legally, and that's his position. Don't compel me to do something that violates my religious belief.
That isn't what the law does.
He's open to the public, and Avery's right. It's not what the law says, Fred. He's open to the public. I don't think he has the right to do this. Ultimately, I think either shut your bakery down or make the cake. I think that's how it's going to end up, but it's going to go back. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to answer this one.
You don't think the Supreme Court's going to answer this one? Okay.
I think they can.
All right, we'll leave it right there, gentlemen. Richard and Avery, thank you. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.